Hi guys, it's Belle from camp. I hope you're doing well at home. So this activity period, we're going to be doing horse at home. So all you'll need for this is a piece of paper and a pencil. You can also grab some colored pencils, crayons, or markers if you want to color in. We're going to be making a horse later on. But really I have a bunch of kind of trivia questions, fun facts for you, and just kind of going over some of the unique characteristics of horses, how cool of animals they are, and I'm excited to share some things with you guys. So let's get started here. So horse trivia first for you guys. So which of the following is not a color of a horse? So horses come in many colors. Which of the following is not a color that they come in? Your options are A, blue roan, B, chestnut, C, calico, or D, bay. So which of the following is not a horse color? And that would be C, calico. So calico is actually cat color. This is Cindy, one of my foster kittens, and she was a calico. Horses don't come in this color, but they do come in many other colors. So one of your most common colors you're going to see is bay, and that's characterized by this kind of dark brown coat. It can also be a little bit lighter brown, but they have this black mane and this black tail, and they have these dark black points. So you can see their legs kind of fade here and here and here kind of into black. They can have some markings or socks, but if they don't have that white, they kind of fade into this black. They typically also have black points on their muzzle and around their eyes. So that would be a bay. This is Daytona from camp, and this is Mr. Smee from camp with Sammy back when she was a camper. So this is an older picture from a while ago. Other color of horse, brown horse, we'd have a chestnut. So chestnuts typically are kind of a lighter brown. They're kind of a reddish brown, but their mane and tail matches their coat color typically really well. So instead of having that black mane and tail, they have kind of this lighter brown that matches. And this is 7 from camp. We also have gray. So this is Disney from camp. He is a gray horse. He's not a white horse, although you might think of it kind of looking at him. But you can see on his muzzle, he still has that kind of dark or the black kind of under skin tone. It's not white or pink. That would be a white horse. So he's considered a gray. This is also gray, so they can come in a couple different shades. But both of those are gray horses. And we have Palomino. This is Marco from camp. And that's kind of that lighter brown body with this cream mane and tail. So that's going to be your Palomino coloring. Then you also have black, so black fur and hair with your black mane and your black tail there. You have your more unusual colors here. So you have your buckskin. That's going to be similar coloring to your Palomino, but instead of that light cream mane and tail, you're going to have this darker mane and this darker tail, and you're going to have these kind of black legs on him. This is going to be a red roan, so that kind of rusty color. It's not actually spotted, it's just kind of a faded kind of all throughout the body mix of kind of coat colors, and that's a red roan. This is a blue roan, not actually blue, but kind of has this bluish hue to it. Similar kind of to that gray, but it's that grayish blue hue that makes that blue roan. And this is Smokey from camp. Other colors, so we have some spotted colors here. This is going to be a paint. Paint spots are typically bigger, so you can sign to see these more patchy spots throughout, and they're typically white, either brown, light brown, or black as the other colors along with the white. And then your other kind of spotted horse is an Appaloosa. So all of these are Appaloosas. They can kind of look like this and have lots of little spots, or they can kind of have similar little like localized kind of spotting. This is JD from camp, and you can see kind of his spots on his hindquarters there, on his chest over here in this picture, and then a little bit on his face as well. So that would be some examples of an Appaloosa. Fun fact for you guys, gray horses are actually born a different color, and they get their gray hair when they're a few months old. So this foal up here in this picture will actually turn gray in a couple months, just like his mother in the background, even though you can see he's brown right now. And then a baby horse, I just said, it was called a foal, and they're typically up and walking only an hour after being born. So this baby here is about 24 hours old, and this one's a few days old here. So they're already up and running around. All right, so now we've talked about some colors, and so let's talk about some horse breeds. So which of the following is not a horse breed? Your options are A, quarter horse, B, Jersey, C, Clydesdale, or D, thoroughbred. So which of the following is not a horse breed? And that would be Jersey. So Jersey is a kind of cow breed, not a horse breed. So we have the quarter horse, and so those are typically ones we'll see at camp quite a lot. They're usually used in our Western disciplines like the Western pleasure and the trail riding we do at camp. They also can be used to herd and rope cattle, as well as some barrel racing. They're short, stocky, they have some really good muscling both in their hindquarters, and their jaws typically are really well muscled. They have this kind of flatter, straight faced, and they typically have kind of small hooves or feet on them as well. And so quarter horse is kind of an unusual name. So a little bit of horse trivia here. How did the quarter horse get its name? And your options are A, they are the fastest horse over a quarter of a mile. B, they used to only cost a quarter. C, they weigh 1/4 or a quarter of a ton. D, they were used to divide cow herds into quarters. So what do you guys think? How did the quarter horse get its name? And that would be A. They're the fastest horse over a quarter of a mile. So thoroughbreds are the fastest over longer distances, but in that short quarter-mile distance, the quarter horse is actually the fastest. So they can do some pretty quick sprints there. Another horse breed we have is Clydesdale. These guys are really big. They're large bay draft horses. You can see here one for kind of scale. This is me next to a Clydesdale. And they're typically used with that big size for pulling carts and wagons. And they have these long hairs on the bottom of their legs like draft horses do. And so what do you think those long hairs at the bottom of their legs are called? So your options are A, forelocks, B, flutters, C, manes, or D, feathers. So what do you think? What do you think these long hairs at the bottom of the draft horse's legs are called? They're actually called feathers. So they don't have wings like birds, but they do have feathers. All right, then we go on to the thoroughbreds. So thoroughbreds are used for racing, eventing, steeplechasing, and many other disciplines. They're a very versatile breed. They're typically these tall horses with these delicate straight heads. So they're straight like that quarter horse, but they're a little bit more delicate and a little bit more triangular shaped. And they have these long, slender legs typically. So we have a lot of other kind of horse breeds out there, Arabs, ponies, Friesians, Mustangs. We don't have time to go over all of them today, guys, but you can go and look up some of those other horse breeds. So fun fact for you guys, the first motion picture ever made was filmed in 1878 and showed a galloping or a running horse. So that was one of the first movies ever made, was of a horse running. So we've talked a lot about horses and breeds at this point and how they have a wide variety. They're very versatile. They have lots of different jobs. And I work with horses every day, and I think they're beautiful, beautiful creatures. And every time I look at them, I see God's creation and God's handiwork in them. He did such an amazing job creating these beautiful creatures. And so one of my favorite Bible verses about a horse is found in Job. It's Job 39, verses 19 to 24. And kind of the context for this, guys, is Job's going through a really hard time. He's questioning life, he's questioning hardships, he's questioning struggles, and he's just asking God why. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? And he's just really has a lot of questions he doesn't understand. And God comes back to Job and answers him actually with a whole bunch of other questions to kind of show Job who's in charge and who has a plan and a purpose for his life. Who holds and made all of creation, who made a purpose. And so this is God describing his wonderful creation of a horse and how he made it with strength and everything. So this is God talking to Job. And it says, "Do you give the horse its strength or clothe its neck with a flowing mane? Do you make it leap like a locust, striking terror with its proud snorting? It paws fiercely, rejoicing in its strength, and charges into the fray. It laughs at fear, afraid of nothing. It does not shy away from the sword. The quiver rattles against its side along with the flashing spear and lance. In a frenzied excitement, it eats up the ground. It cannot stand still when the trumpet sounds. So that's just a beautiful, beautiful description of horses in the Bible, and just how, again, they point to God, these marvelous creatures. You can see here the running and them jumping like locusts or grasshoppers over obstacles. So we're going to create our own horse. So God did a lot of creating, and so now I want you guys to kind of get creative here and draw some own horses. Don't worry, I'm not an artist. I expect you guys to be. We'll kind of go through some steps, but I want you guys to make it your own. Make your own unique horse. Doesn't have to look like mine. I want to see what you guys are coming up with. So we'll go through step by step. So the first step that I like to do is kind of draw these circles here. So this is going to be the base of your body. So these two larger circles are going to be your body. Your tail's going to be down here. And then you're going to do two circles for its head. So kind of a medium circle and a smaller circle for its head. So its neck would be here, ears would be up there. So if you guys want to grab your piece of paper and kind of draw some circles there. Pictures will be up at the corner of the screen step by step. I'm going to go through some other trivia, kind of interesting facts about the horses as we draw here. So we talked about horses, some of the breeds and things like that. There's lots of things you can do with horses, and those are called horse disciplines. So very versatile, and you can do everything from pulling carts to jumping to barrel racing to trail riding to polo to police horses. There's a lot of things you can do with horses. So if you're up in Pennsylvania or driving around camp, you probably see some of the kind of more cart or pulling horses. So these are some Amish horses. You might also see some out in the field helping plow the fields and everything like that. So you can have these who are pulling carts. All right. How is that drawing coming, guys? So after you have your circles, kind of the next part is to start connecting some of them and draw kind of circles for your legs. So I usually do 8 little circles for my legs. So these are going to be kind of my knees, 1 leg, 2 legs, 3 leg, 4 leg there. And then these smaller ones at the bottom are going to be where my fetlocks, or kind of that lower joint, is going to be. So you can go ahead and draw those circles in. I usually kind of add a kind of curved line between my circles for the neck. Here and here, you can make your withers, which is that little bump right there, or their shoulder blades, their back, kind of to their hindquarters, their belly, chest, and then you can draw kind of that head as well. So I'll leave this up here for you guys a little bit and give you a fun fact. So you can actually determine how old a horse is by its teeth. So I can actually tell how old a horse is, whether it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, kind of middle-aged or older, based on what its teeth look like. So they change shape as they get older in life. So it's kind of fun. You can open up a horse's mouth and kind of guess their age. All right, so we talked about kind of cart pulling for disciplines, and now we're going to talk about some others. So these disciplines, eventing, dressage, jumping, and cross country, are actually all disciplines that you'd see in the Olympics. So unfortunately, the Olympics got canceled this summer, but next year when they actually hold the Olympics, you can go and watch the horses compete, the horse and riders compete at the Olympic level in eventing, dressage, and cross country. Eventing is made up of the other 3 disciplines: dressage, cross country, and jumping. So in order to do a full eventing, they have to compete in all 3 disciplines, and then their scores get combined. So first is show jumping. So show jumping is a very specific pattern of jumps where the rider has to jump them within a certain time. So it's timed, it's speed. And then they also can't knock off poles from the jump. So they have to jump clean but fast. And I have a video as you guys are drawing here of a horse if you want to look up jumping over some show jumps. So you can see just how big this is, a higher level. So you can see that that jump is almost as tall as that horse, and he just clears it. Again, think about back to that Bible verse where horses leap like locusts. So you could just see them spring over that jump there. So that would be show jumping. And we have Cross country. So cross country is a long course over the countryside with several different types of jumps. So they have to run a long distance and kind of jumps along the way. And some of those jumps even can include ditches and water. Here's one kind of interesting obstacle on a course. It was a valley, so they had to jump down and then jump up these kind of quadruple combination of jumps there before running off down the hill again. And then here's another part of that same cross-country course. So you can see a horse comes over, kind of clears that little jump, clears a ditch, and goes running up the hill over to another jump there. So that's cross-country. And then the last part of the eventing is dressage. So dressage is often referred to as like horse ballet or horse dancing. And it's a bunch of choreographed movements, very specific movements of these horses. So here in this video, you can see that horse coming at us at this kind of side passing trot. So that's called a side pass. And then here we have this horse going and doing a pirouette. So that turn where its hind legs are staying in place, but its front end is flipping around. And then you can see it running and its front legs are switching back and forth, and that's called a flying lead change there. So those are some kind of specific moves of dressage. So how's your horses coming along? So after you kind of have all that body connected, I usually start kind of adding in where my legs are going to be. So at this point, you guys can follow along with me if you did those circles and those kind of spots, or you can try and kind of put them in different places and kind of be making a running or a trotting horse. You can play around with that as well and see different leg positions. So fun fact about horses, even though they're very, very big, their hearts beat slower than a human heart. So their heart rate is only about on average 36 beats per minute. Human heart rates are about twice that. So horses' heart rates are much lower and slower. So some other horse disciplines here. So these are some of our Western ones that we talked about earlier. So we have some barrel racing. We have some herding of the cattle, and then we have just these wonderful trail rides out and kind of beautiful. You can enjoy the scenery and nature and go riding on horseback. That's one of my favorite things to do, guys, on horses. So if you take a break from your drawing and look up, I have another trivia question for you guys. So barrel patterns, I talked about barrels a couple of times. So I want you guys to see if you can identify the barrel pattern. So is it A, where you kind of have this triangular shaped pattern where you run up and around? Is it B, where you kind of run down in this circle, turn around and run back? Is it C, where you run in this clover leaf shaped pattern? Or is it D, where you run kind of in this weaving type pattern? So which is the barrel pattern? A, B, C, or D? And it would be C. So that clover leaf pattern there is the barrel pattern. So this is actually a flag race A. So you put down and pick up flags as you run around. B is keyhole, so you run down, turn around, and come back without stepping out of a circle. And then D is poles, so these little marks are for the poles. You run down, you weave in and out of the poles, you weave back, and then you run back. And all of these events are timed to see who can do it the fastest. All right, so another interesting discipline, it's similar to dressage, but it's actually team. It's called drill team. So it's a choreographed movement to music of multiple horses. So here you can see they're all kind of choreographed and doing the same movement. They're coming around in this circle here. Ones on the outside are moving faster and ones on the inside are moving slower, so they keep that nice straight line. And then they'll kind of crisscross in the middle. Looks like they're going to run into each other, but they don't. So that's going to be your drill team there. So back to our horses that you guys are drawing. So once you kind of have those legs positioned, what I do is I actually erase my kind of guiding circles. So you can erase on those legs as well as your body and your hem. And then starting to add in some of your details. So I usually add in my eye at this point, my nose, my mouth, and then I add in my hooves. So they're kind of triangular shaped. So you can kind of come down, add your pasterns, which is that little part up there, and then your hooves in. Then I usually add a tail as well. So fun fact about horses, horses weigh about on average 1,000 pounds. And so that's about 116 gallons of milk, if you think about how many gallons of milk a horse would weigh. Now, there's a huge range of weights of horses. So if you're a mini or a pony, you're going to weigh half to a quarter of that. If you are Clydesdale, you're going to weigh closer to over 2,000 pounds. So big difference, but on average, most of the horses weigh about 1,000 pounds. So these are unusual disciplines, guys. So these are ones that are much less common, but really fun to do on horseback. So you have everything from mounted archery. You can have mounted shooting as well. So you're starting to hit those targets on horseback. You have gymnastics, or what's called vaulting. So you actually do a gymnastics routine. You stand and pose and actually can do flips off a horse while they're on a lunge line being controlled by someone on the ground. And then you have skjoring, which is skiing. So you actually are skiing behind a horse, and so the horse is pulling along a course, and the person driving the horse is behind on skis. So those are all kind of some fun, unique disciplines. So it's not just kind of going and riding in circles or over jumps. You can do a lot of interesting things with horses. So some fun facts as we finish up our drawings, as you guys kind of finish up and add those details in, about the Olympics and kind of different disciplines. So in the Olympics, the riders have to be at least 16 years old to compete in the dressage part of the Olympics. And they have to be 18 years old to compete in the jumping portion of the Olympics. And the horses have to be a minimum of 9 years old to compete. So you have to be kind of that minimum age to even make it into the Olympics. Then you have the older age. So the oldest rider who actually competed in the Olympics was 72 years old, and the oldest horse to compete in the Olympics was 18 years old. And then another kind of fun fact is horses have their own passport for traveling internationally. So as they travel to the Olympics or other competitions and they kind of go across the seas and things like that, they have their own little passport that has a description of them. They get stamps and signatures, and so they have their own little passport there for traveling. All right, so hopefully you've kind of gotten a chance to finish up all your details on your horse. If not, that's fine. Take your time. But then kind of next step is you can shade in your horse. So you can pick one of those many colors that we talked about earlier, bay, chestnut, maybe you want to make a paint or an Appaloosa, maybe a roan. You can add and kind of choose your colorings. If you just have a pencil, you can make a gray horse and just kind of shade in the gray parts. So here I made a bay horse, so you can see the black points again, black mane and tail. And then I added some markings to it, which we'll go over here. So you can add different markings to your horse. And so all of their kind of face markings have different names. So here we have a star on R2. Here we have a stripe on 7, almost a blaze. Blaze is a bit bigger than a stripe, so that one's kind of halfway between a stripe and a blaze. And then we have a thin stripe here, and so you can see that, so skinnier than 7s. And then you have your leg markings. So this would be a half stocking. This is almost a sock. Sock is kind of at that fetlock, so that's kind of that part of the body that's called a fetlock. A sock would be something that's that high white marking or lower. If it's really low, only here, that's a pastern. You can have a coronary band or just like a heel spot. And then this is a stocking. So a stocking is kind of a higher up the leg. So feel free to add some markings to your horses as you're coloring those in. And then finally, we're going to come up with a show name for our horses. So all horses have a fun show name or a camp name. So here's a couple examples. You can have Silver Moon Eclipse, Cowgirl's Dream, Barbed Briar Rose, Mr. Z. I decided to name mine here Trailblazer because I usually teach the Trailblazers and I'm Trailblazer counselor at camp. So thought it was appropriate to name my horse Trailblazer. And I would name him Blaze for short. So if he came and kind of had a barn name or a short named, it would be Blaze. But his full name, which would be on like his passport or his papers, would be Trailblazer. So be creative, guys. I really want to hear kind of what you're coming up with in terms of your names. I want to see kind of your pictures and what you've come up with in terms of your horses and markings and coloring as well. You can post them to the bottom of this video. And I would love to see what you guys are coming up with here. So be creative and surprise me. All right, and then finally, in kind of our end of the activity, I want you to choose what your horses are going to do. So are they going to be a barrel horse? Are they going to be a cross-country jumping horse? Will it be a dressage horse? So kind of choose a job for your horse. And then the time remaining here, so when we finish up with this video, what you guys can go and do is actually make at home a little course for you guys to do. So go and set up a barrel course. Go outside, put maybe a frisbee or a pillow down to mark your barrels, and then have someone time you and run around in this kind of cloverleaf pattern and see how fast you can actually finish your barrel pattern. So that's something you can do. You can make a cross-country course outside. Again, you can set up like a frisbee or a blanket and jump over it, run up and down hills. Again, make a course and time it and see how fast you are. You could also choreograph a dressage or dance routine and perform it and see, you know, how creative you can be in that way. So use that time at the end of this for the rest of the hour and go try and do something kind of creative with the horses. All right, and that comes to our end of this time, and we will see you guys all next summer. Have fun and stay tuned for other activities and campfires and songs and everything like this that's going on this week. So we'll see you all next year. Bye, guys.